Hi guys, happy Friday. I hope everyone is having a good week. So, for the last chapters of this awesome book, yeah, this will be great. And I can't believe I bought my book at Half Price Bookstore, and honestly, I'm really surprised that a teacher gave it up because there's so many awesome things that I plan to use not only the first year, but for a couple, maybe 5 years. Okay. So first, the chapter 13 was help struggling readers find success. Um, so one example is never ask students to read out loud. I remember this being such a struggle for me when I was in elementary school. I hated to read and I had problems reading, and I remember the teacher saying, okay, we're gonna go every person. And I remember counting how many people and then looking at the paragraphs and seeing, and then if I counted wrong, and that whole time I had been practicing, I was devastated. And then I read it even worse. And still to this day, when I have to read in front of people, I get extremely nervous. So don't have students read out loud in front of everyone, maybe in small groups. But the section also talked about how students need to read every day. So that doesn't mean they have to read in front of people, but make sure they're reading. Give them time to read, and always have them carry around a reading book to every class. I know that's what we do at Beveridge, and it seems to work pretty well. Also, have the students skim the text and see if they notice anything different. So if they're super scared to read, have them look at the book and be like, what do you think that picture means? Or what do you think that graph means? And then kind of discuss that before you get into reading. Maybe that will excite them a little bit more. And then each day present a word of the day. And we do this with our deaf kids, especially because they're really behind with language because they don't hear it every day. So we'll have a word of the day and we'll show them the sign and they get excited. And then sometimes we'll have them come and teach us a word of the day. However, most of the time they're just making up words. So, to each their own. And then chapter 14 was on to manage your classroom through early intervention. One thing this section talked about is not using punishment because that doesn't make a permanent change. Don't be a pushover. Do not nag or poke the bear. I don't know how many teachers or paras or interpreters I see that just constantly keep nagging, and that just makes them more upset, and then they end up winning. I know they've won against me many times when oh, did you just make Miss Clark sad? And then they're like, yeah, I hate you. I'm like, okay, so you won. That's not very nice, but you won. So don't be a pushover, don't poke the bear, and don't let them see you cry, even though I've heard that is extremely hard. And when you're making your plans, always have a backup plan to the backup plan to the backup plan. And make sure their work is meaningful. Don't just have them do busy work, because we know, also being in the program, when we have to do busy work, there's so much else going on in our lives, and then to add on busy work, it's incredibly hard to stay focused. And then lastly, I thought in the chapter was great, was never leave the classroom unattended, which I'm not a certified staff, and I'm constantly left by myself in the classroom. And if anything were to happen, I know what I would do. But the school could get in trouble for me doing anything because I'm not certified. So never leave your class unattended. In section 15, they talked about the myths and disciplines and how to handle behavior problems efficiently. One thing it really focused on was to choose your battles. Smile, expect high expectations. And this chapter created a list of things that you can do. And then I thought what was really cool at the end was a behavior contract where students could see how much time they engaged in the class, how long the class was, and just to kind of go from there to see how much of the class they actually worked versus didn't pay attention or chatted with their friends. Section 16 is not only modify, is managing diversity. And we're always taught to modify for the students that have special needs, but also learn to modify for those gifted students that need the bar raised a little bit. And then remember your at-risk students, those students that might have a horrible background, family background, or come from poverty, or come from substance abuse. I know right now we have a couple kids whose parents are in jail, and it's incredibly hard. At first, it was incredibly hard. I kept wondering why they'd come up and hug me. I'm like, oh, it's really not okay to hug. But these kids, they don't have that at home. So yeah, that's difficult. And then chapter 17 or section 17, the last one, it was troubleshooting. All the disruptive things that can be in your classroom. I think one disruptive thing could be having cell phone use. I see a lot of teachers struggle with that daily. But then I've also seen what teachers have done instead. They have like a phone jail box. So if you get busted with your phone, it goes into the jail. I found that kind of cute. And then during tests, there's one teacher that has like those shoe, and I've seen this on Pinterest too, those shoe, what are those called? You keep your shoes in the thing.